Was I the asshole for demanding my wife give both our sons the same gifts, or nothing at all, even if it meant ruining my marriage? Hi Reddit. My name is Mark. I'm 39 years old, and if you're reading this, it's because I don't know anymore if I was a good husband, a bad father, or just a man who tried to do the right thing and failed anyway. A few years ago, I made a silent promise, the kind you don't say out loud but carry in your chest every single day. I promised myself that my son would never feel like he was less than anyone else, that he would never experience what I went through as a child, and that he would always be a priority. Today, I'm writing this from a borrowed apartment, surrounded by boxes, with my son locked in his room and a feeling of defeat crushing me. It all started about 6 years ago. My ex-wife left me when Josh, my son, was barely 5. She said I was a failure, that this wasn't the life she wanted, and she left without looking back, leaving me with a broken little boy and self-esteem that was shattered to pieces. I can't lie, it hurt more than I wanted to admit, but it also forced me to wake up because I didn't have time for self-pity. I had a son who needed me. Months went by, and then I met Sarah. She was 37, had an 11-year-old son named Ryan, and was dragging around her own ghosts. We met at a parent-teacher conference. She was alone, just like me. We talked once, then twice, then started seeing each other more often, and without looking for it, we found comfort in each other. It all happened fast. A year and a half after meeting, we were already living together. We got married with separate finances, more for formality than anything else. I didn't have much to offer, but she said she didn't care. For a while, we thought we were doing things right. Josh and Ryan weren't friends, but they coexisted. We worked hard, and the house was full, at least. But like all things that seem stable, cracks started to appear where you least expect them. The first noise came from Sarah's family. They were wealthy people, the kind who smile a lot but size up your shoes before hearing your words. I remember the first time I had dinner with them. Her mother said, "Well, if you're happy, honey, that's all that matters. Though I would have expected something better, but it's your decision." Sarah defended me, took my hand, and made it clear she chose me over them. And although that made me feel safe, I also saw what it cost her. Sarah cut a lot of ties for me, distanced herself from her family, and lost financial support, but they stayed in contact because of Ryan. He was the favorite grandson, the silent heir. At first, I didn't mind that they only gave gifts to Ryan, that they invited him on trips, or bought him designer clothes. I told myself, Josh has me, he doesn't need more. I swallowed my pride and repeated to myself that love compensates for everything, until Josh started to notice. He was 9 years old when, after one Christmas, he asked me why they never gave him anything. He said it while putting his only new shirt in the closet next to the 3 new coats Ryan had received that same day. I didn't know what to tell him, so I just hugged him. That night I spoke to Sarah. She told me she couldn't force her family to accept Josh as a grandson, but we could make up for it ourselves, she promised. And we did. Or we tried. We made an effort to give Josh things that made him feel included, a toy here, a field trip there. Sarah even started spending more on him than on her own son. She saw it, she valued it, but no matter how hard we tried, it wasn't enough. Ryan had a new bike, a laptop, private tutoring. Josh had whatever came out of 2 tight paychecks, and a promise that was already starting to rust. I didn't say it out loud, but I felt rage, a contained rage disguised as patience. It wasn't Ryan's fault, or Sarah's, or maybe even her family's, but it was unfair, and injustices, when they pile up, end up weighing more than any debt. The boys didn't get along badly at first. They played together sometimes, shared video games, but they were never brothers. When Josh turned 12, everything changed. He stopped staying quiet. He started saying what he thought, pointing out differences, questioning things. He yelled at Sarah once, saying, "You aren't my mother." I scolded him, but silently, I understood. Sarah took it with maturity, at least at the start. She told me she knew he was hurting, and she would keep trying, but something in her tone changed. It was no longer patience, it was resignation. I started to change too. I began to see how my son was fading, like a candle being blown out from all angles, and no matter how much I tried to protect that flame, the wind was coming from inside the house. I didn't know it yet, but everything was about to break. The promise I made to myself, that I would never let my son feel less than, was starting to wobble, and I, who thought I was strong, wasn't so sure I could hold it up. After that Christmas, when Josh asked why he never got gifts from Ryan's grandparents, something shifted in him. It wasn't a dramatic turn, no screaming or crying. It was subtle, like he started shrinking on the inside, becoming invisible. And I, with guilt pounding in my chest, began to see the differences I had tried not to look at before. Ryan had everything. Not his fault, of course. His grandparents sent him money, clothes, courses, consoles, and not just on special dates. Sometimes packages arrived without warning with cards that said for the champ. And Josh? Nothing. Sarah said she couldn't do anything, that she couldn't tell them not to send things to their grandson because it was absurd. It's not absurd if their presence here is breaking the balance of this house, I argued. She asked what I wanted her to do, Punish him for having a present family? I didn't want to punish Ryan. I wanted Josh not to feel like leftovers. We started arguing more often, always in the kitchen, always in hushed voices while the boys were in their rooms. I defended my son. Sarah defended normalcy. She said Ryan wasn't doing anything wrong. No, but Josh is getting the message that he isn't worth the same, and that is going to destroy him, and it was doing exactly that. One day, Josh asked for guitar lessons, his first real wish in months. I said yes, but I had to borrow money. I felt miserable, not because of the money, but because I realized how unequal it all was. Me going into debt to give him an activity, while Ryan received private coding classes, tennis, and tutoring paid for effortlessly by his family. Then came the scene that broke me. The school organized a tech fair, and students had to bring their own devices. Ryan brought his laptop. Josh brought an old tablet with a cracked screen. At pickup, I found him with red eyes. I asked what happened. He said the teacher asked if he wanted to partner with Ryan, and Ryan said no, that he preferred to work with someone else because Josh would ruin his presentation. I felt like ice water had been dumped down my back. I swallowed my rage and told him it wasn't his fault, but that night, the lump in my throat wouldn't go away. I talked to Sarah. She listened in silence and said it was surely a misunderstanding, that Ryan wouldn't humiliate him in front of everyone. Sarah, they are teenagers. Sometimes they don't think. Yes, but they act, and Josh is paying the price. She said she would talk to Ryan. I don't know if she did. She never told me. The next week, Ryan got a new cell phone, another detail from his grandparents. Josh didn't even ask. He just looked at it out of the corner of his eye, while Ryan unpacked the phone in the living room, smiling, then went to his room without saying a word. That night, we ate in silence. I tried to talk to Josh, asked if he wanted to go out for ice cream. He said it doesn't matter, Dad, it's not the same. I asked what isn't the same. He said nothing. Everything. And closed the door. Sarah started saying Josh was becoming rude, that he had a bad attitude. I said he was frustrated, hurt. She said, you can't justify everything with him being hurt, period. I asked her what she would do if she were him. She stayed silent, but the final blow of that stage came on a random Thursday at dinner. Ryan, excited, announced that his grandfather was enrolling him in a private academy that summer to study robotics. Sarah smiled. I looked at her. Josh lowered his head. That night, after washing the dishes, I told her this had to stop. We can't go on like this, Sarah. One has everything, the other nothing. They are being raised under the same roof but in different worlds. She asked what I proposed. I said we set a limit, that big gifts get consulted, that if there isn't enough for both, there isn't enough for either. Or at least they get distributed somehow. She said, Mark, you don't understand. I can't control what my parents do. I told her I wasn't asking her to control them, but to put them in their place, to make them understand that this house cannot continue to be marked by that difference. She told me I was obsessed with making everything equal. I said no, I am obsessed with my son not feeling like a burden, and that isn't wrong. She stayed silent a moment, then said, this isn't just my family's fault. Josh is resentful. He doesn't accept my place. He doesn't want to get along with Ryan, and now you want me to force everyone to treat him the same? It's not the same, but here it should be attempted, I said, because if not, this is going to break. We didn't say anything else. We slept in silence. Another night, and I already sensed it. Ryan's birthday was coming up, and with it, something more than a cake was going to explode. Ryan's birthday arrived like a forecasted accident. I knew something was going to happen. I didn't know what, but I felt it in my bones. Josh had been quieter than usual for days, more sullen, more distant from everyone. And Sarah, well, she seemed like she was walking on eggshells. Every word was a potential trigger. Every gesture could turn into a fight. Ryan was turning 16. His family had been hinting for weeks that this year would be special, and every time Sarah hung up the phone after talking to them, she avoided looking me in the eye. I asked what they said. Nothing, just stuff about the lunch they're hosting. Did they tell you what they're getting him? I don't want to argue, Mark. Done. That's where the conversation ended. It had been decided that he would spend the afternoon with her maternal family, lunch, photos, hugs, gifts, the usual routine, but that at night, he would celebrate with us. Josh didn't like it. He didn't say it, but I saw it. I saw it when Ryan came out dressed in new clothes, new shoes, everything freshly bought for the birthday. I saw it in the way Josh pursed his lips and went straight to his room without saying goodbye. At 6 o'clock, Ryan came back. He was wearing a smile so big it seemed like the world fit perfectly between his teeth. He had that glow that only rich teenagers know, the one of knowing that life already has a paved road for them. Sarah hugged him. I watched. Josh came down the stairs slowly, as if he were facing a verdict. How did it go, son? Sarah asked with an emotion that almost hurt to see. Ryan adjusted his cap and replied, it was incredible, the best birthday of my life. And then, he dropped the bomb. They gave me a car. Silence. Excuse me, I asked, unable to stop myself. Yeah, a car. Well, used, but it's perfect. And on top of that, they started a college fund. Between my uncles, grandparents, and mom, I practically have college paid for. Josh froze. I saw his hands clench into fists under the table. I saw him swallow hard, once, twice. I saw the injustice pool in his eyes until it almost overflowed. Ryan kept talking, happy, without malice, but with the unconsciousness of someone who has never had to think about anything other than receiving. He said they don't want me to start my life with debt, and if I get into a good university, they'll help with more things. Oh, and I get the car when I get my license. The phrase that broke Josh was that last one, because he knew he would never have anything like that. Not soon, maybe never. Then it happened. The sound of the plates smashing against the floor was like a gunshot. Food splattered the tiles. Josh stood up, shaking with rage. That's great. A car, a fund, a whole life gifted to you. How lucky people with rich grandparents are. Sarah stood up, pale, and said, Josh, enough. And he, with eyes shining like embers, screamed at her, You are nobody to me. Ryan dropped the cake he was holding. Sarah was breathless. Josh ran to his room and slammed the door with a force that made the whole house vibrate. I closed my eyes for a second. I knew it was a low blow, but I also knew it didn't come just from him, but from years of feeling less. I went over to Ryan. I told him it wasn't his fault, to go up to his room. He looked guilty, confused, as if only now understanding the gap between him and his stepbrother. When he left, we were alone, Sarah and I, face to face in the kitchen with the stained floor and the echo of the scream still floating in the air. This has crossed the line, she said with a cracked voice. Yes, but not just because of Josh, I said. She looked at me as if I had lost my mind. Because of who then? Because of me? Because of Ryan? Because of your family? Because of all this difference you never wanted to see? Mark, I can't control what my parents do. I didn't ask you to control them. I asked you to set boundaries, to defend Josh like I have defended Ryan. She shook her head and said, This isn't about gifts. Of course, it's about the gifts, about the opportunities, about the treatment, or are you going to tell me it's normal for one kid to have a car and a college fund while the other doesn't even have a decent tablet? And what do you want me to do? Force him to share? Give up what they gave him? It's his right. I took a deep breath. I don't want to take anything away from him. I want Josh not to feel like he's worth less. He's our son too. He's not my son, Mark, not entirely, and you can't force me to feel what I don't feel. That phrase was the real blow of the night. Not the car, not the fund, not the screaming. That was what started to break us. She saw my face and lowered her gaze, maybe regretting it, but it was too late. We slept without speaking. Again. And while the house sank into silence, I knew with absolute clarity something that froze my soul. The big explosion was still to come. After the birthday, there were no big fights, no slammed doors, no screaming, no more broken plates, but the silence covered everything like a toxic fog. The house became a minefield. We all moved carefully, as if one extra word would detonate something. Josh didn't speak a word to Sarah again, not one. And with Ryan, they didn't even look at each other. They were no longer teenagers sharing a roof. They were enemies locked in separate trenches. Sarah and I barely spoke, and when we did, it was the basics, the grocery list, bills, schedules, all in a low tone, without eye contact. Sometimes I felt like I lived with a coworker, not a wife. Josh started to lock himself away more than ever. He stopped having lunch with us. Sometimes he ate bread and butter in his room. Other times, he simply didn't eat. Every time I tried to get close, he closed off more. As for Ryan, he seemed to float through the house as if it didn't concern him. He played music with headphones, locked himself away too, but he didn't have that dark energy, just indifference, which hurts when someone doesn't even bother to hate you. One night, Josh asked me if he could use Ryan's laptop for just a while because he had homework and the old tablet didn't work. I went to ask Ryan, Can you lend it to him for a bit? It's for school. Ryan raised an eyebrow without even taking off his headphones. No. Let him use something else. That's mine. Just for a while, Ryan. I already said no. Josh didn't say anything. He locked himself in his room and didn't come out even for dinner. The next day, I found out he turned in the homework handwritten and got a lower grade for not following the digital instructions. I tried to talk to Sarah. She said, And now what do you want? For me to force him to lend his things? It's a school assignment, Sarah, just for a while. Mark, we are walking on eggshells. Anything could break the little that remains. What remained was already broken. Only no one dared to look at the pieces. The collapse came a week later. I was at work when Ryan called me. His voice was trembling. Mark, they fought. Josh and I. What happened? I didn't let him into my room. He wanted to play with the console, and I didn't want him to. And then, we argued. He pushed me. I told him to leave, that this wasn't his place. And then, he broke it. The console? Yes. He threw it on the floor. He said, if I don't use it, no one else is going to use it, period. My stomach tightened. I felt a throb behind my eyes. Not for the console, but because I knew Josh had crossed a line. That he no longer knew how to scream for help, and used the only thing he had, his rage. That night, when I arrived, Sarah was waiting for me in the living room. She wasn't furious, nor crying, She was broken. And that was worse. I can't do this anymore, Mark. I sat in front of her. I asked her to tell me everything. She told me that when she got home, Ryan was locked in and Josh still had shaking hands, that he didn't apologize, that he only said he was sick of being treated like a ghost. And what did you do? I sent him to his room. I didn't want to do something I'd regret. There was a long pause. She didn't look at me. I stopped paying for Ryan's classes this month. What? And I kept paying for Josh's. I thought that way, if he saw I was trying. And did it work? No. He hates me just the same. He doesn't hate you, Sarah. He's just losing hope. Mark, if this happens again, if something like this happens again next month, I'm separating. The words weren't a scream. They were a sentence. I stayed silent for a few seconds. That's the solution? Threatening to leave if a teenager with a shattered heart breaks something? I'm not threatening. I'm setting a boundary. I can't take it anymore. I told her there was another way out, that we could use Ryan's car as a shared asset, that when Josh turned 15, he could use it too. I proposed starting a fund for him, even a small one, with whatever little we could. It wasn't the same, but at least something. She shook her head. I can't take away what they gave my son. I can't force him to share. I can't keep sacrificing everything for someone who doesn't want me, and you can't set limits on your family either. I already did. I distanced myself from them to be with you. Or did you forget? I didn't ask you to. You did it. And now you're throwing it in my face. That was the point of no return. The way she looked at me after that sentence, as if she finally understood that this couldn't be fixed. I don't want to argue anymore. Perfect. We slept in silence, back to back, like two strangers who only share a bed out of routine. And the next day, I went to work as usual, as if everything were normal. But it wasn't. Nothing was. And when I returned, I knew before opening the door. The house was no longer the same. When I opened the door that day, I knew instantly something was wrong. The house smelled different, not like food, not like perfume. It smelled empty. I stood in the entrance for a few seconds, not fully understanding what was happening. Then I saw the living room, and I knew. The TV was gone. The console. The wooden cabinet where we kept the photo albums. The blue vase Sarah always moved around because it didn't match anything, but she was fond of it. I walked further in. The coffee maker had also disappeared. The new dishes, the microwave. Josh, pale, came out of his room with a stone face. She took everything, he told me. She came with a van. She didn't let me help. She just told me to say goodbye to you. My heart squeezed. I reached for my phone. I had several missed calls, all from unknown numbers. I texted Sarah. What the hell did you do? She replied a while later. A voice message. Mark, it's done. I'm not going to keep pretending. I'm leaving. I'm separating. I took what I bought with my money. I don't want to argue anymore. I don't want to know anything else. I'm fed up, exhausted. This can't be fixed. I called her. She answered. Her voice was so calm it scared me. Why like this? Why did you leave without talking about it? We talked about it 1,000 times. Did you never listen? And you think stealing everything is fair? I didn't steal anything. I took what I bought. Check the receipts if you want. And Josh? You're going to leave him with another open wound? I can't deal with your son anymore, Mark. I tried. For years. But he never wanted to let me in. I was always the bad guy. And now I am officially. So I'm leaving with the little dignity I have left. You didn't do this for your family, right? It was always for them. Don't bring my family into this. I distanced myself from them for you. I stopped receiving help. I put up with it, and you always acted like they owed you something. They owe us something. They treated Josh like trash, and you allowed it. There was a long silence. Then, her voice changed. It turned to ice. Good thing we signed a prenup. Because if not, you'd want half my savings too. I don't want to keep them. I just want you to understand what you did, what you are destroying, what I did, after years of enduring glares, screams, contempt. She asked nothing. She stood there a few seconds. Then she said, I told you, never trust anyone who doesn't see you as a priority. I didn't know what to answer. And then, the sentence that pierced me. And don't ever bring anyone else into this house. I am tired of being the second choice. She went back to her room. I stayed on the floor with the marks of the TV still visible on the wall. That week was a whirlwind. I had to borrow money for rent. Josh quit all his extracurricular activities. Food was scarcer. I sold the bike we had bought him 2 Christmases ago. And I slept where I could. Because Sarah took the marital mattress too. My pride went out the window. And still, I didn't cry. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't have any tears left. The most ironic thing is that I don't even hate Sarah. I think she tried, truly. But in the end, she chose the easy way. The comfortable way. Hers. And I was left with the broken promise. And with a son, who now looks at me as if expecting me to abandon him too. I won't. Even if I'm left with nothing, I won't. But I am left with a doubt, the most screwed up one of all. Was it worth breaking a family to try to get justice for a son the world never wanted to see as equal? Sarah never understood it. She never wanted to see that Josh didn't need luxuries or gifts. Just a gesture, a balance, a sign that his place in this family was real, but she always put her comfort first, peace with her family, protection for her son, silence where boundaries were needed. She left taking everything, as if with that she could erase the years. She said, I never valued her effort, but what really hurt was that she never wanted to see mine, nor Josh's. Now I am signing a divorce I didn't ask for, sleeping on a borrowed mattress, watching my son learn, too young, what it is to feel dispensable. And while she rebuilds her quiet life, I am left with the remains, with the son who was always on the margins, with the guilt of having chosen wrong, and with a single certainty, it wasn't justice that broke this family. It was their inability to understand it. Comment 1. Are you seriously blaming your wife for not unconditionally loving a child that wasn't hers, while your own son treated her like trash? She at least tried. My response, my son what? Did he have to keep feeling like the leftover while everyone pretended nothing was happening? I didn't force anyone to love him. I only asked for respect and balance, that they not treat him like furniture. Comment 2. I read the whole thing, and I can only tell you one thing. You failed as a partner, as a stepfather, and as a father. Not for what you asked, but for how you handled it. You let it escalate until it destroyed everything. My response. You think I don't realize that? Of course I let it escalate, but I did it because every time I spoke about the issue, I was treated as if I were exaggerating. I stayed silent to keep the peace, and in the end, I lost everything. Comment 3. You wanted equality, but that isn't forcing a teenager to share his car or college fund. That is pure envy, disguised as justice. My response. I never asked them to take away the car. I asked them to share. A gesture. Something to help close the gap. Is it so terrible to believe that both boys should feel part of the same family? Comment 4. Your problem was with your wife's family, but you went after her and her son. Did you expect them to give everything away so your son wouldn't feel bad? That isn't parenting, it's resentment. My response. My problem was with her family. But when I saw that my wife preferred not to intervene, I understood the problem was also with her. I didn't seek for them to give everything away, just that someone, once, thought about my son too. Comment 5. Josh broke a console that wasn't his. He screamed at his stepmother that she was nobody, and you said you understood him. That's where you lost all moral authority. My response. And what should I have done? Hit him. Screamed at him like everyone does? He exploded because I didn't know how to protect him in time. I understand it because I lived it. When you are a kid and feel less, you do crazy things. But that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt me what he did. Comment 6. Sarah put up with more than she should have. She defended you in front of her family, contributed more financially, and still you wanted her to treat a son who never loved her the same way. That's not how it works. No response. Comment 7. What you call doing justice is projecting your own guilt and economic lack onto others. Your son wasn't discriminated against. He simply wasn't the son of that family. No response. Comment 8. Your story isn't sad. It's a chronicle of a wounded male ego that can't stand his partner earning more, having a family with resources, and not submitting to your rules. No response. Comment 9. You used your son as an excuse to turn yourself into a victim, but it shows you used him as a flag more than once. What you did was actively sabotage your relationship. No response. Comment 10. How did you expect this not to end badly? It almost seems like you wanted Sarah to leave, just so you could say I was right. No response.